What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world? I would like to welcome you back to the Real Talk with Zuby podcast. Now, on today's episode, we have got on a special guest. This is Leah Lamar. She is a comedian and an actress. Right now, as we record this, she's actually in the UK and I'm in the USA. So we've swapped countries. Leah, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Wow, thank you so much. I'm doing fabulous. I'm in Edinburgh in Scotland. I'm doing the Fringe Festival. Scotland is treating me well, and I love it here.
Awesome. I love the way you said
Period.
it. Say the city name again.
Edinburgh. I know it's like Edinburgh, but I can't bring myself to say it that way. I did look up. Apparently, Reuters came out with an article just a couple weeks ago that listed the top 20 best cities in the world, and this is number one.
Yeah, I never believe those lists, but cool. So when they do the 10 happiest places to live, and they always pick like
Not my
Denmark,
childhood home.
Sweden, Norway, Switzerland. It's just like, I don't think I think there's a little bit of a bias there. But you know what? Edinburgh is one of the only cities in the UK I haven't been to.
Oh,
I've been
well,
to
then we can't
Glasgow
pass
tons of
judgment.
times. Yeah, performed in Glasgow tons of times. Been all over England, Wales, Scotland. But I haven't been to Edinburgh, so I'll have to check it out sometime. But
It's gorgeous.
Leah,
Yes.
yeah, I'll definitely go up. For people who are not so familiar with who you are and what you do, tell them a little bit about yourself.
I am a stand-up comedian, and I'm an actress, I'm a writer, I'm a Web3 advisor, and I'm a podcast host. I have a podcast called Real Time Crime on iHeart. And I also have another podcast coming out with non-fungible films called Web3 that is all about Web3 and everything having to do with NFTs, crypto. And it's really, I would say, a good way to bridge Web 2 to Web 3. So if you are very curious about what Web 3 is, this is also a good podcast for you. And even if you're a pro in Web 3, we'll be bringing on guests that everyone knows in the space. So it'll be interesting to hear them being interviewed.
That's awesome. And how did you get started?
In what?
In what was comedy
specifically?
was comedy the first, or were you acting before that?
No. So I was a dramatic actor for a really long time. I wanted to do musical theater, and it turns out I cannot dance. So we left that dream to die, and it was reborn as just a theater dream. And I was doing lots of off-Broadway shows in New York, and there's nothing I love more than Broadway. I mean, I will not go to Broadway shows with people specifically because when I watch a show, I will sob the whole time. I don't know. I can't explain it. There's just some sort of magic that comes over me that I'm just so enthralled with. And I think it's the level of talent and creativity. And I think it just opens up this world of possibility in my brain that it just makes me sob. And it is so awkward. People are like, why is that single woman sobbing during Wicked? And I don't know how to explain it. It happens to me in movies as well. I just can't stop. Anyway, so I moved from theater and I suddenly started making a switch into film and TV when a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I saw you in that play. I think you'd be really good in my movie." And then, I tried that and I was like, this is cool. This is an interesting art form and, you reach more people this way. And I think art is to move people. So the more people you reach, the better, hypothetically. It depends on what your definition of art is. But and I'm not going to get into TikTok and what some art forms are. But so then I moved into film TV and I moved out to Los Angeles to be a young ingenue, and I met with this casting director. And after the end of an hour-long conversation, she just said to me, "I want to let you know you're more funny, less pretty."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh my God.
I don't know.
I'm funny?"
Yeah, I was like, how do you take that? I was like, that's like simultaneously. I don't know. Was that how did you take that?
I knew what she meant in hindsight. It really hurt in the moment. And, I thought New Yorkers were honest. Turns out it's really the people in LA. What she meant was I wasn't a 19-year-old model starting from scratch, coming to Los Angeles to be a dramatic actress in a trilogy. I was in my mid-20s and I was funny. And so I think there are at that time, especially too, there were fewer funny women who were also considered super attractive for comedy.
Mm.
And when you go back in time, it's like, it's been historically very difficult for women to move up in the comedy scene. And some of my idols, like Joan Rivers, I mean, people just really didn't like her. She was really misunderstood just because she
Mm.
spoke her mind and she was loud and she was a woman and she said what she wanted to say. Amy Schumer isn't known for her looks, but she also is someone else who broke the mold for women. And I just idolize her. I think that these women who really pounded the pavement
Mm.
made waves for people like all the modern women trying to come through and become comedy legends and comedy icons and tell their story and tell their truth. And I filmed a web series many years ago called The Real Witches of West Hollywood, which was obviously like a spoof of a reality TV show. It was very stupid, very fun. And I had this older actress in. Her name is Bunny Gibson, and she was in the original American Bandstand. She has a heart of gold. She's like a sweet angel. She's like a grandma to me. And at our premiere, she brought me a book from Phyllis Diller that was signed by Phyllis. And if you don't know who Phyllis Diller is, she was one of the OG female comic stand-ups.
Mm.
And Bunny was just like, I feel like Phyllis would want you to have this because you have the energy of Phyllis. And I just started sobbing. And I thought that was so sweet. I don't know how I got here. But I did. So I did pivot from just, trying to pursue a career in acting to stand up. And once I started stand up, I realized it was really a natural fit for my personality. I've always kind of been more of a lone wolf than
Mm.
subscribing to any sort of mob mentality. And I don't mean that in any sort of negative way. I just don't think I love being attached to a group. I
You must
kind of like
shake.
to
It's
just
good.
pop. Yeah, I just like to pop in and out, do my thing. I'm like, okay, I'll dip into this community and then I'll go home. I'll dip into that community. I have lots of different friend circles. I don't like to necessarily subscribe to anything specifically. And so for stand up, it was just you come in, you do your thing, you leave. You
Mm-hmm.
come when you want, you leave when you want, and you're able to write your own material. You have an illusion of control at least because there is no sort of control in Hollywood. But in Hollywood, you could wait. I could just rot waiting for the phone to ring, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to just wait for the phone to ring. I wanted to write my own words, say my own words. There's an illusion of some sort of safety when it comes to being able to perform whenever you want that makes you think that, you have control over your art.
Yeah, well, I think you do. I mean, and now that you're pursuing this path, I assume that it would now be a diss if someone said that you were more pretty than funny. That's probably not what you'd want to
That
hear now,
is
or I don't
so
know.
funny that you said that because just the other day after a show, one of my girlfriends came up to me and she's like, "You're so beautiful." I was like, "But am I funny?" Well, yeah, I don't care about being pretty. I just want to be funny,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that is exactly how I feel. But and now I'm here in Edinburgh, doing my debut solo show, my hour, and
Mm,
I'm doing it every day. It is exhausting. It is definitely eye-opening experience. I'm learning a lot, and I'm having an absolute blast. I'm
that's
so
awesome.
grateful to be here. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that my fellow Brits are treating you well. Have you found a difference in how American crowds are versus ones in the UK? Have you noticed anything particular?
I'll say this. I think LA crowds are a little woke.
Hmm.
And in Los Angeles, everyone in LA is trying to get discovered. No one's laughing because they're just too busy thinking that someone in the audience is an agent. I'm like, no
Oh,
one's trying
okay.
to discover you. You're in the audience. Calm down. Just enjoy a comedy show. No, I'm mostly joking, but it is very tight in LA,
Hmm.
because it's a Hollywood audience and everyone's super jaded. And I do think that it is difficult to touch on any hot topics in LA without
Hmm.
offending someone.
Hmm.
I do feel very similarly about New York, but it's not as bad.
Interesting.
And especially because it's not super entertainment driven. New
Hmm.
York, you'll find your bankers and your marketing experts and your health provider. It's just a different type of environment. And so people do really, and also people are coming from all over the world to be entertained. So their art really does go to thrive there a little more than LA. And so I find that it's a different kind of crowd that comes to watch stand up in New York. But since I've been doing shows in London at Top Secret, at Angel Comedy, but Top Secret is an incredible club. Since I've been doing shows there, I've realized that they like dark jokes. They like dark humor. They like edgy
Yeah,
comedy. And I like telling those types of jokes.
we've
Whether
noticed.
people yeah, and whether people consider that shock humor or not, that's really none of my business. I think it's fun. People like Anthony Jeselnik. Anthony is so dark, and that's his whole thing. And people love him and admire him for it. And it's his whole style.
Mm,
But if people aren't used to you saying those types of jokes and you're not already famous for them, you could get really frowned upon.
yeah.
And so I love being in London and Scotland, and Edinburgh, where I feel like people are just open to whatever comes out of your mouth.
That's good. Do you think that, I think comedy is so important right now. I think it always has been, but I think more than ever, I think as so many Western countries, whether you're talking certainly the USA, but the UK, all across the board, you use the term woke, right? But things are moving in this more censorious, less humorous direction, right? Like you're not supposed to have a sense of humor. You're not supposed to be able to make fun of things, let alone laugh at yourself or laugh at anything else. And it's weird because it's kind of come full circle. I mean, you brought up Los Angeles and New York City. Traditionally, these are two of the most liberal cities in the world, and certainly in the United States. But this weird thing has happened over the past few decades where a lot of those people have become the ones who want to censor everything. And it's really strange. There's been this sort of switch and shift that's occurring and is happening, and a lot of people have noticed it. And it's like, what exactly is going on here? The same thing is happening in London to some degree, but I think comedy is so important, and it's so important for comedians to stand up to that, because I think entertainers in general, but I think comedians, and I think a lot of rappers as well, I think those are like the bastions of freedom of speech. And when I say freedom of speech, I don't just mean from like a legal perspective, but from a cultural perspective. And I think it's so important with all the chaos going on in the world, all the madness, all the negativity. It's so important for people to just be able to laugh at things. And so that's one of the reasons why I love comedy and I like comedians, because it's just like, just go for it, right? Say the stuff that other people might be thinking but won't say. Stuff is gonna upset people, offend people, trigger people. Like, we're all offended by different things, but if you have a sense of humor, you can laugh at anything, even something that's close to your heart.
Yeah. And not only do I agree with a lot of the points that you just made, if not all of them, I can't even think of one I could disagree with. I have found that here's what I started doing. At the top of my hour, I make a comment on the fact that if you are a sensitive person, the show is not for you.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, it's a trigger because then I prepare people for their expectations. So then I've already warned you, this is your time to leave if you are a very sensitive person.
Yeah.
If you're someone who enjoys any type of comedy and doesn't get easily offended, this is I have a joke in there, it's pretty stupid, that I reference what happened with Will Smith at the Oscars. And then I'm like, comedians in telling jokes in 2022 is like Joe Biden riding a bicycle. It's dangerous, but we're willing to risk our lives for it, and I think I mean that, look what happened with Dave Chappelle. Someone stormed the stage with a gun.
Yep.
How did that even, I just, it blows my mind. Hopefully not literally.
And sorry to jump in. Do you know one of the things that's even, I don't know which one is worse, the fact that happened or the fact that there were people who thought that was okay because he'd been offensive to such and such people. Like, when people are willing to condone and excuse violence, or, kicking people off platforms or throwing people in prison or whatever because of a joke. There was just this, I don't know if you saw in the UK. Did you see that guy got arrested
Which
for
one?
posting a meme last week?
What?
There was a guy in the UK who got arrested by the police for posting a meme, and the police officer literally said that his meme caused anxiety to some people. arrested, handcuffed, for posting a meme that caused anxiety
What was
to
the
someone.
meme? I have to know.
The meme was the new pride flag, like the really ugly one with like not just the normal rainbow, but the one with like the black and the brown and the like
Yes.
trans colors and all of that. It was that, but like if you arrange four of them diagonally, it makes a swastika, and he posted that image,
Ah.
right? Um, and then of course, to prove him wrong, you come into his house and arrest him for posting the meme. So it's kind of ironic, but it's the weirdest videos. You can see the video online. This is just like I want to say a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. But this is a guy literally getting arrested for posting a meme on Twitter, and that's where things are going. And he's not the first. I
Social
mean,
police.
you
Yeah.
probably know. This is a few years ago. You probably know. Hey, you're in his country. You probably know Count Dankula.
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't? Oh, okay.
But that's
Count Dan-
already hilarious.
Count Dankula is a Scottish comedian and YouTuber who got arrested in, I want to say about 2016 or 2017. He got arrested for a joke he posted on YouTube. He taught his girlfriend's pug how to raise its paw in like a Nazi salute. And he posted a video on his YouTube to annoy his girlfriend, showing that he'd turned her little pug into a Nazi. And the police came to his house. He got arrested. He was put on trial, and he was prosecuted for this joke. Now, yeah, some people might be like, "Hey, I don't like that joke. I don't think it's funny," but he was potentially facing jail time for it. I think in the end he was fined £800, but I think he was the first person in modern British history to be prosecuted for a joke. So yeah, we're living in weird times.
It's interesting because as a Jew,
Mhm.
I don't find that funny at all. It's interesting because even as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, what's the line? Like, what's the line between what's legal, what's not legal, what's funny, what's not funny? Like, a bad joke is just that, a bad
Mhm.
joke.
Yeah. And what's funny about this one is the joke was just for his girlfriend. It wasn't supposed, he put it on a YouTube channel that had, I think, 12 subscribers. Like he's a big
Mm,
YouTuber now. He's got a big channel now. But at the time, the video was, I think he posted it public. I think it was supposed to be private, but he posted it publicly. And he was out of the country. And somehow this video got discovered by people and
yeah.
amplified and amplified and amplified to the
Oof.
point where when he came back to the country, the police were like waiting for him,
At his
basically.
doorstep.
Yeah. So the video, he thought, okay, my girlfriend's away from the weekend. She's just got this cute little pug. I'm gonna like teach it to do like this gross thing to annoy her. And then it just snowballed. It just became this giant thing. And then he was all over the papers, and people were, he's, needless to say, he's not a Nazi or anything like it, but he was amplified it just snowballed into the craziest thing.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was
it's
just
so
like a big
wild.
example of something that happened a few years ago, where it was like, well, I think it's happened in Canada as well. There have been
That checks out.
some comedians fined for, yeah, comedians fined for jokes that they told on stage or that they told online.
Man, ugh. I mean, here's the other thing that is happening. It's a trend that I'm noticing in comedy, which is that people are telling me, look, for years people have been telling me how to do my comedy. Don't talk about sex, don't talk about this, don't talk about that. Okay, so you want to censor my comedy. You want to tell me how to do my comedy. That's fine. Why don't you do your comedy the way you want to do your comedy? But
Mhm.
that's not even the bothersome part. The bothersome part, because at this point I'm just so over all of the Hollywood shenanigans that you have to jump through as a female. Well, anyone, but it happens a lot for women.
Mhm.
But the thing that I'm noticing is that people are telling you, don't just do an hour of jokes. It has to be a story.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
we want a storytelling. And I'm just thinking, why? Why does everything have to have a deep message?
Mhm.
Why can't comedy just be because you want to laugh for an hour?
Yep.
Isn't that the point of comedy? Why does everything need to have a powerful message behind it?
Hmm.
That's what dramas are for. That's what and you can do both, but for it to become a movement where people are like, that doesn't work anymore. You can't
Yeah.
do that. That's not what people want to see. It's a struggle to me. I think
Hmm.
that people are being pushed into a narrative.
Do you know what it is?
I'm
When
waiting
you
on every word.
when as your profile rises and you become more and more of a public figure or influential person, what happens is people want you to be their mouthpiece. They want you to say, this happens in every arena, not just comedy. It can happen if you're a social political commentator, a YouTuber, a gamer, a musician, whatever it is. People want you to be their mouthpiece. And whether or not they know it, they start saying, oh, you should do this and you should do it. Because they think if they were in that position, that's the message that they would want to, that's the message they would want to get out. And so knowingly or unknowingly, that pressure starts to come. I get the same thing all the time. I'm not a comedian, but oh, Zuby, you should talk about this, or you should do this, or you should tweet about this, or you should talk. It's like, dude, like that's what you want to talk about. I'm
Mhm.
talking about what I want to talk about, and sometimes that'll align with the things that you're thinking or the things you want to say, but not always. But if you've got hundreds of thousands of people following you, which we both do, then there's always that risk of audience capture where someone just completely starts playing to their crowd or taking certain talking points and just repeating them. So I think that's what's happening. I think that, again, in this weird time we live in, so many people are looking at musicians and comedians and actors and athletes and whatever. Even if they just don't say anything, sometimes they get criticized. It's like, oh, why didn't this person say anything about X? It's like, well, why should they? He's an author. He's a rapper. Like, why should they have to speak out on every
Yeah,
single
why do they have to make a
thing?
message about global warming, something they have no idea about?
Yeah,
Yeah, like what?
it makes no sense. But that's, yeah, I think
Yeah,
I think
why does
that's
this
what's at
person
play.
have to talk about being a vegan when they're not? It's just, yeah, I think it's interesting because the message that I'm starting to realize that I have behind my comedy and the message that happens in my show here at Edinburgh is I'm really trying, is something that I don't think the powers that be would actually love particularly,
Mhm.
which is that social media is ruining a lot of us.
Mm.
And social media is a highlight reel, and you're not showing people the real you, and all of this is really an illusion. It's all fake. And so my show, I just try to show people the very real me, what's
Mhm.
really real underneath it. I take them on a full journey of, I even reference a photo on my Instagram where it's like I look like this amazing girl who has a perfect life. I'm in a 5-star hotel in Paris, and then I take them behind what's actually happening in the photo, and how, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you don't see, this is the thing. And people are looking up to what I think are really false idols.
Mm.
And they're looking up to people who've been surgically enhanced or changed or have so much more money than them that, it makes their lifestyle different or whatever it is. And I think that these sorts of issues and like really separate, this is what's separating people, and this is what's really damaging children.
Mhm. What are your thoughts on that? I want you to expand on that a little bit more because it's interesting because with what we both do, social media and the internet in general is largely what's enabled it, right? Like the technology has been so powerful in order to reach audiences all across the world and so on. But then there's also this, we both also recognize the problems with this technology and how it can affect people, adults, but also children. I think it affects men and women, boys and girls in some uniquely different ways, and then in some ways where it's the same. So if you brought up, for example, appearance, right? Girls and women are going to be much more sensitive to certain things that they see online in terms of imagery if they're on Instagram or they're on TikTok or that. Boys and men were less I don't know, influenced by it or feel less pressured by it. If you're swiping through Instagram and you're seeing super jack dudes with glistening six packs and they're on all types of drugs or whatever, it no, it doesn't matter. No one compares that. No one's ever complained that GI Joe or He Man or Batman or Superman are too jacked and that they're creating a false standard of physique for boys and men. Like no one, it's not a thing. It's not a concern. But with women, um, it is. So I don't know. Can you just go a little bit deeper on that sort of conflict with social media?
Yeah, I think that it's a necessary evil.
Mm,
What I mean by that is the internet is how I became successful.
yes.
So for me, it's a double-edged sword because not only do I don't know if a lot of people here know me, but I was a Clubhouse icon. If you don't know what Clubhouse was, it's an app that really thrived during the pandemic. It was all social audio. And
Hmm.
so I was running stand-up shows on there day in and day out. I was just going it felt like a reality show without the video, where I was just telling people about my life, and I'm really an open book type of person. I don't have secrets, I don't think, that I haven't shared with literally anyone who would listen to them. And I got a really large following because of that. I think
Hmm.
people really just like to hear the truth. They're like, oh, wow, this person is really real. And then when that app kind of took a nosedive because everyone was emerging from the pandemic and we were going back to live shows, you're playing to much smaller audiences unless you're playing in front of a theater. And I had some big comics take me on the road. Dane Cook took me out, and we'd be playing to 3,500 seat theaters, which is really good reach.
Hmm.
But it's still not the same thing as being directly on your phone. It doesn't translate immediately to followers when you're
Yes.
performing live. But when you're already on your phone, it translates almost directly to followers.
Hmm.
And that's the way people consume content now. And so we become addicted to filming clips, putting up clips, stand up clips, any sort of content of us doing something funny, something, a sketch, a character, a man on the street video, and then getting addicted to watching the likes and the how many times was it played and how many comments did I get and did people like it and did they save it and did they share it and how many people reposted on their story. I mean, it's endless.
Hmm.
And so it's great because what it does is it lowers the barrier to entry, which is what happened during the pandemic. I was no longer being held back by gatekeepers.
Hmm.
And in Hollywood, that's casting directors, that's bookers for comedy clubs, it's anyone who has the power to say yes or no to you. But when you're on the internet, no one has the power to say yes or no. If your video is public, anyone can see it. And if people like it, they'll share it.
Yeah.
And unless, you're shadow banned or your views are getting suppressed for some reason, you can get a very large following. And now we just see this as the model. So many people are getting famous from the internet or getting seen. And a lot of those people are really talented.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how Justin Bieber was found.
Yeah. It's a great thing. I mean, I think people often forget just how new the technology is. That's what I notice. I think that, I mean, the combination of smartphones and social media is only 15 years old. So as far as humanity goes, it's like a split second. So I think that there are many challenges that we're now going through, and we're running this huge, grand human experiment which we've never had before. I mean, the notion that we can be just the fact that we can reach hundreds of thousands or millions of people by tapping some buttons on a phone, what we're doing right now, and the fact that
Mm-hmm.
people can then go and listen to this no matter where they are in the world, it's like witchcraft, really. I mean, any of our ancestors would would see any element of this and just be like, what on earth is going on? Like, wait,
Yeah,
you're
I
you're
was
in.
promised a hoverboard in the future. What sort of, what is this? This version of the future sucks.
Yeah.
No, I mean, but I agree in a lot of ways, and I also think it's, like I said, a necessary evil. It
Mm,
makes me ill to be on Instagram. I could go
really?
into a spiral comparing and despairing, which
No.
compare and despair is what I think happens to a lot of people where they say, okay, I posted this video and it only got, 20,000 views and 30 comments. And then I saw
Hmm.
another friend who posted a video and he got 50,000 views and 150 comments. What is he doing that I'm not doing? Why is he getting
Mm,
this and why am I not getting this? And
hmm.
a lot of that is jealousy. It's which is an ugly emotion. A lot of it is not believing in yourself enough, or there are a million reasons that you feel jealousy or you feel
Yeah.
like it's a you start comparing yourself to people, and that used to be something that plagued me. I don't
Mhm.
feel that way anymore because I spent a lot of time working on myself, and also because things turned around for me. No, but I had to take a step back from social media for a while because I felt broken.
Yeah.
I felt like I was constantly I was just a cog in the machine. If I don't
Mhm.
post, will people forget about me? If I do post, will they like it?
Yes.
If I do post and it doesn't do well, is it because I'm posting at the wrong time or the wrong day or it's I mean it's totally bizarre, and I think it really gets people into their heads about who they are, not
Mhm.
only as people but as artists. And I don't think that's what it's meant for.
Yeah.
I think it's great for spreading of information, whether it's misinformation or information. I think it's great for advertising, right? So like, a necessary evil would be me having to promote my shows.
Yeah.
It's like I have to get the word out, and have people share
Wh
it.
why
And
do you use the term evil?
because like I said, I think that the less time I spend on social media, the better I feel.
Gotcha.
The more time I'm in real life engaging with real people, places, and things, the better I feel. I've
Mhm.
never felt better laying in my bed scrolling through Instagram versus being on top of a mountain.
True that. True that.
It's like when I think about this is how I got addicted to escape rooms. I'm so embarrassed to tell anyone this. I love escape rooms. I'm going to make a blog. I am absolutely obsessed with escape rooms. I love solving the puzzles. I like the themes. I think it's fun to literally not be on your phone for an hour, just
Mhm.
using your brain and being inside of a room that was created for you. It feels there's an element of magic and just good old fashioned fun. It's like when you used to play board games as a kid with your family and everyone was just communicating and hanging out with each other and having in-person connection. I think a
Mhm.
lot of times I feel really out of touch when I'm on Instagram. It's a
I hear that.
falsification of connection, I think. It connects people and disconnects them at the same time.
It does. Well, at the end of the day, we are all human,
No,
and
not all of
with
us.
well, most of us, everyone I talk, everybody I know, everyone I hang out
I'm
with is
not
human.
convinced I'm from this planet, but that's fine.
But that's something that often gets lost in the mix is humanity. And I think that when technology helps you move closer to humanity and truly connect and it enhances all of that, then it's good. But there's a very fine line between that and it taking away from humanity and whatever platform people are on, right? This is why people fight on Twitter all the time because they forget you're interacting with other human beings. You're just seeing these little avatars and words, and you're not thinking, okay, there's a real human being with feelings and a family and a life and problems who's on the opposite end of this thing. It's
This is
just
part of the
like
evil, by the way, the
this is
trolls.
this is definitely part of the evil, and it's an ongoing challenge because it's so weird. Like again, none of our parents didn't have this, our grandparents, all our ancestors didn't have this. They just existed in the present, in the real world. We've been given these new magic tools, and it's like, okay, what are you going to do with it? Right? Are you going to use this for good, or are you going to use it for bad? Are you going to let it consume you and destroy you, or are you going to control this? Right? And it's a tricky one, but I think one thing I definitely do is I'm very certain. I mean, it's how we met each other, right? I mean, I meet people in the real world that I know through social media. So I don't just keep it online and in this fake virtual world. I use this. Okay, cool. I'm going to go out to the USA. Cool. I follow all these people on Twitter and Instagram. Let me connect with this person. Let's connect with that person. You actually come together in the real world. And when it's like that, I think, okay, cool. That's an enhancement. But I think when people just get stuck in this thing of, oh, okay, I've got a best friend. I've never actually met my best friend. My best friend is just online, or we just play video games. I'm like, you guys, why don't you meet each other in real life? This is just weird. Or people do this even with romantic relationships, and people are having romantic relationships with people they've never met in the real world and don't plan to. And I'm just like, okay, that is strange. And I don't think that's a human evolution right there. I think that's a
I
big
have to be
step
honest, that
backwards.
sounded really judgmental to me. No, God,
I
I
don't mind
find
being
all
judgmental, by the way.
no.
I'm totally happy with that.
I know. I just find a lot of it odd. I
Yeah.
do. I've met a lot of my best friends from the internet,
Hmm.
and that's true. I've also met a lot of my best friends from in real life.
Yeah.
And I know that the older generations think we're weak because they don't understand. We have different hardships. They'd be like, your great grandfather walked 6 miles just to go to elementary school and then had to work at the button factory and was a chimney sweep and a newsboy. And you're complaining because one person on the internet named Random Goat 420 said that you weren't funny in this one clip. And I'm like, yeah, but Random Goat 420, it's a different form of hardship that you just don't understand. Really made me
uh,
spiral out, and I think we're just living in a different time where because we're all so attached to our phones. I don't know, but I don't have a calendar. I use my phone. I don't have a physical paper calendar.
yeah.
I don't, I have all my credit cards are in my phone. Um if I need anything, I have everything is in my phone. Everything's in my laptop. If I didn't have them, it would be a problem.
Hmm.
I would panic. I'd be like, okay, well, how do I order an Uber? Well, how do I get to the airport? I'd like suddenly panic because
Hmm.
we have mainstreamed the use of our technology and our phones to just be part of our everyday lives in every sense of it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's an interesting shift. But with that said, I know you were talking earlier in the intro about Web3. So
Hmm.
first of all, for all those listeners out there, can you explain what Web3 is?
Yeah. So, Web 1 is technically your dial up AOL, the really early days of the internet, just the beginning. It's just one or two search engines. People really, a lot of FUD, fear, uncertainty, doubt about what the internet was. Web 2 is what you're really experiencing now, is a one-way relationship between brand and consumer. And Web 3 is consumers taking the power back and making a copacetic relationship with a brand. So Web3 is really about community-based integration. It's about bringing together big business and the purchaser. So, for example, if I'm Nike and I come in and I have an NFT drop, non-fungible token, lives on the blockchain, if you purchase it, I want to know what I'm getting out of it besides a JPEG.
Hmm.
What is the utility behind this? What am I getting out of it? What do I get out of being a fan of yours? What do I get out of being a collector of yours? And so the models are changing. It used to just be buy this PFP. A lot of people, that's how people feel about Bored Apes. But then they had to evolve into what's the utility behind them? Okay, it's a
Hmm.
social club. Okay, you get first drops from Snoop Dogg and Eminem. You get new merch drops. So again, let's go back to the Nike model. Nike might say the first 1,000 people to purchase get Nike shipped to their house that are limited edition.
Hmm.
They may get, for like Dolce and Gabbana, a friend of mine purchased one of their most expensive NFTs and he just did a photo shoot with them.
Okay.
And that will be in some of their stores. So you're getting a reward for being a fan, for being a consumer. You're working together with the brand.
Hmm.
You're not just, oh, I'm waiting around the corner like in a huge line to purchase these new Nikes, and now I just get shoes and Nike doesn't care about me.
Yeah. What got you so
Now it's a two-way
interested in
street.
this area?
If we're honest, I
Hmm.
think I just got taken in with the current. It really started on Clubhouse, and I didn't quite understand what was going on, but I was there for Steve Aoki's first drop. I was there for Paris Hilton's first drop on stage with them, and people were just making millions of dollars off these drops. And I
Hmm.
still didn't quite understand the technology behind it. And what it really is you're tying a contract that lives on the blockchain. You can check your Etherscan at any time to see who owned it before you, how much they bought it for, and how much you bought it for, when you bought it, and who you sell it to, all of this sort of stuff, right? It's a contract, and they're attaching it to art. So of course now they're moving it into MP3s, and at some point in the future it will be film and TV, but people haven't historically consumed media on the blockchain like that yet. Doesn't mean they won't. But what got me excited about it was when I started to realize that artists we were the priority.
Mhm.
So let's take away big brands for a second. There are people who are incredible artists that no one ever knew about, but because their art was attached to the blockchain, not only did they cut out a middleman, taking out a huge fee from their art, and they go direct to consumer, they were able to build a completely new fan base purchasing with cryptocurrency. And so some of these people just became millionaires.
Mhm.
Some of my, like, Thank You X, Ryan, he's an incredible artist. And now I would say he's probably one of the most famous people, one of the most famous artists in the space. I didn't know him before.
Yeah.
And it's a new generation of artists. It's a new type of art. It's just like the digital world is taking over. You were just saying the internet is so new. This is all, 15 years basically. And now digital art is a new version of art. Just how, like, when the MoMA opened, the Museum of Modern Art, people were like,
Mhm.
what is this? So people didn't understand it. And
Yeah.
and then it became part of art. And now digital art is the next phase. And I think living in the metaverse and having metaverse land and metaverse art, it's just a different type of art collection.
Yeah.
And so it's a new world that's opening up. And I think it's really cool to be early to something and see what it's like to be not trapped in a corporate triangle. So what I mean by that is I will be doing my own drop soon. And as an artist, and listen, agents and managers, network studios, they're all important. They're all necessary. However, in Web3, I could drop my NFT and I get 100%.
Mhm.
I'm not giving 15% to my manager, 10% to my agent, 20% to the studio. Like, it's a lot of money that goes into the pockets of other people who sometimes don't even really do that much for you.
Sure.
They're just riding your coattails. Of course, that's not all managers and agents, but that is a pretty standard Web2 model in the entertainment industry. And I know you're a musician. Musicians historically make nothing. The amount of money that they make from their art
Mhm.
proportional to how much they should be making is disturbing.
Yeah. That's why I've been independent from day one, and a
Yeah.
lot of people didn't understand that. It's interesting because when I started doing music, being independent was not cool, right? That was just, oh, unsigned. It was like, you want to be signed, but you can't be, or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm very, very happily independent. And it's funny how now, I mean, now there are artists who are signed who pretend to be independent because you get
Right.
more clout for being for being independent. So again, that's another thing. It's funny to see how it's changing. But I think that this technology is actually kind of a return to an even more traditional model. Because if you go back with art, I mean, people used to have like patrons, and it used to be, before all these middlemen came into the picture, companies and managers and agents and all this and that. Actually, it was more direct to fans. So I think, funnily enough, we're going through again another one of these loops where it's new technology, but it's enabling that really old school direct to fan model again, just on a whole different scale. Because now you're not limited to the locality, not just the town or the city or the village that you live in. You've now got the internet. So if you are a singer, a rapper, a comedian, a painter, whatever it is, you've just now got this global audience. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I mean, I think with any technology comes challenges and comes opportunities. And I think that as long as you are able to maintain your sanity and not get addicted in the wrong way to the wrong things, then there's so much opportunity, there's so much money to be made. There are so many wonderful people to reach and to connect with and to collaborate with and to sell things to. You just have to use it in a way that most people won't. I mean, I think that social media is a phenomenal tool. It's so incredibly powerful. There's so much that can be done with it, but the vast majority of people are just completely in consumer mode and they're not using it consciously. And everyone can fall into that sometimes, right? We all have times where, you go on there to do something productive and then you find yourself 20 minutes later just scrolling
20
through random.
minutes, try 3 hours. How are you just going into a 20-minute spiral? Oh my gosh,
I'm a
I need your
disciplined man,
discipline.
Leah. I'm a disciplined man.
No, but the other thing too is that I think our experiences are being curated for us.
Mhm.
And it frustrates me that I can't just go on and I'm looking at my timeline and it's not the people from my timeline. I'm getting, not only am I getting sponsored ads, but I'm also
Yeah.
getting videos and photos from people I don't even know in my timeline. And it's like, well, what if I just wanted to actually see the posts from the people I know?
That's kind of
You
new,
know,
isn't it? Especially on Instagram.
yeah, but I will say this, it is helpful in some ways because I know that they're listening to us through our phones. So at this point I'm like, well, if they're going to do it anyway, I'll be like mirror with gold frame around it. And then like 2 minutes later, I'll have like 8 ads and I'll be like, perfect. It did its research for me. So thank you so much. I needed to buy it anyway.
Yeah. So Leah, with everything you do, what really drives you? What's your main driver?
Probably just to survive the apocalypse.
I hear you.
Just to make enough money to not get my main driver, honestly, and this is gonna sound really wild. My main driver is to be joyful and spread joy.
Mhm.
And I think that as a child, I did not have a lot of joy and I did not experience a lot of joy. And I felt really tightly wound up. I don't think anyone would recognize me from when I was 18 and younger. Just
Mhm.
a completely different person. And I'm so glad I am. I there was a severe lack of joy. And now as an adult, I'm starting to realize you really regret the things that you don't do with your life.
Mhm.
Instead of just believing that you have to work this 9 to 5, have this type of car, have this type of house, have this type of relationship, communicate with people this way, be a completely polite lady and never say anything out of line. I think a picture was painted for me early on that I stuck to, and I felt I was a really serious person. I was a really,
I
and
can't imagine this.
I know, I know, I know. And I thought that I had to be a doctor because it was the highest form of intelligence, and anything else would make me seem weak or not smart. I
Mhm.
thought that there were just all these preconceived notions that I had what it was to be um perceived by others as put together, smart, wealthy, talented, interesting, well behaved. And I wanted to follow that suit. And the thing is that it was never really what I wanted. It was projected onto me
Yes.
because I was always an artist. And I was always pushed away from it. Always,
Mhm.
always, always. Which I think historically, if you note, when people are pushed in a different direction, it's usually because someone else is trying to hide the truth about something,
Mhm.
and or there's an element of jealousy. And I think that I was always an artist. I was pushed away from it. No one wanted me to do it, even though it's all I was ever really good at and it's
Mhm.
all I ever really enjoyed doing. And finally, it's like you can't keep someone down long enough if they don't want to be held down.
Absolutely. No,
You
I
know,
think
I
there.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. No, there's so much there. I mean, the thing is, if you do anything creative and or entrepreneurial, you're always going to be in the minority. You're always going to be in a small minority because that's just not how. Number one, it's just not how most people are wired. Personality wise, it's a unique personality type that wants to do that. And then also, as you've alluded to, there are so many elements in society, whether that's within families or communities or schools or the whole education system, that is, it's wired to push people into more traditional career paths, right? Things that are considered safe, low risk, secure, things that people just know. I mean, if you even describe what you do for a living, I'm sure a lot of people are like, huh? Like, how does that work? How do you make money? Like they don't understand. If I explain to people what I do, they get each one, they get most of them individually. But if I combine all the different things I do and I tell someone, they're like, wait, how can you, you're a rapper. Why are you speaking at, last week I spoke at the National Conservative Student Conference in Washington, D.C. with like Mike Pence. And people are like, wait, I thought you were a rapper. Like, why you did? And wait, well, then you're doing a podcast. And wait, you wrote a children's book and you have like you do fitness stuff. Like, you're not allowed to do all that. And I'm
It
like,
freaks people out when you're more than one thing.
it freaks people out because it's new as well. In the past, people weren't really like that. It was just like, you're a blacksmith, you're a baker, you're a butcher, you're an electrician, right? You do this, you do that. It wasn't like, oh, okay, you can combine all these things together. And again, we're living in this new and exciting age where you can be all of these things. You can do what you do on social media. You can be a stand-up comedian. You can write a book. You can run a podcast. You can be in Web3 and crypto. You can do all of these things, and you can be interested and capable at all of them. And that's awesome. But a lot of people are not going to get it and perhaps never will.
There's infinite possibility. And I think that people that have always been told that they have to do one thing, as I was, as other people were, and they were made to feel that way, feel that they need to continue marching to that drum.
Yes.
And that life is unfair and that they were dealt a bad hand, or that what we're doing is ridiculous, or there's just so many ways to put people down or make themselves feel better for not ever trying, because it's scary, because if you try, you could fail. And I'm at this weird place in my life where I feel like everyone I know is an entrepreneur. I don't have many people in my life who are living in the stereotypical 9 to 5. And it's not because I don't want to have friends like that. I just think that we don't have as much to connect on.
Yes.
We don't have the same sort of free time. We don't have the same sort of interests. My interests are on a growth mindset, on an abundance mindset, on travel, on creating wealth, generational wealth, creating joy for people, helping people work through whatever trauma or whatever it is through comedy. Also helping people just laugh, because I think that, like I said, laughter is, in my opinion, look, they say laughter is the best medicine, and it's not. Medicine is the best medicine, but it is a close second.
It depends on the medicine. Let's be clear.
Depends on the joke.
And the joke as well.
Yeah. No, well, yeah, also definitely depends on the medicine. But I do truly believe that if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. If you've watched the Kanye documentary, I know he's a controversial figure, and I know a lot of people don't like him, and that's fine. But no one was willing to see Kanye as a rapper. They were like, no, you're just a producer. You're a producer. He'd be just spitting just gems in front of them, and they'd be trying to take calls and kicking him out of the office. No one wanted to see him as a rapper. And because he believed in himself, it's the only reason he became so successful.
Yeah.
You have to believe more than anyone else. It doesn't matter if one other person believes in you, because if you don't believe in you, you're not going to do anything with it.
Yeah. I think the average person needs to think that you're delusional.
And I am delusional, and that's okay. Yeah. There's a little bit of
honestly, I mean, I think that if I explain what I want to achieve in the world to, I don't know, a random person who doesn't really know me and what I'm all about, if they don't think I'm delusional, I'm like, okay, I need to aim higher. I need to make my goal even bigger. I want them to be like, okay, like this guy.
They want their eyes to pop out of their head.
Yeah, like, yeah.
What my goals are. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it is. But then you also want to surround yourself with people who are like, awesome, you can do that. Like, you're going to do that. How can I help you? We're going to achieve this.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about art, though, for me, is that it becomes part of an international lexicon. People have inside jokes from movies that they've seen where You could be anywhere in the world and it's like, oh, I saw, Step Brothers, you saw Step Brothers, and we both died of laughter seeing it. Or, it's an instant connection, and it's an instant way of changing your day or changing your perspective. And I know that's like the silliest, or you could bring up Titanic, right?
Mm-hmm.
That movie is tragic, but it is a legendary film that makes someone like Leonardo DiCaprio an icon forever.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime you see him, like, that's what I think of. I'm immediately thinking about him on a piece of wood, and her being like, I'll never let go, Jack, I'll never let go. And then she lets go. And everyone has these memories, and everyone has the moment that they connect to when they first saw it and what it meant to them, and when they hear the song, my heart will go on, what it makes them feel. You immediately have that nostalgia. And so I think, art to me is really one of the most beautiful ways to connect people.
Amen. So, Leah, where can
Yeah.
people find you online? And do you have anything in particular that you want them to check out?
Yeah, so just make sure you comment on all my reels and follow me on Instagram. And I'm just
Give us
counting
some
every
likes.
like, every play, every share. I'll message you back. I don't know. I've got nothing to live for. You can find me at Edinburgh this whole month doing my hour. And I'm also just touring around in general. So if you go to leahlamar.com, I'll have my show dates there. But my Instagram is really where I have most of my comment. You can also find tickets to my shows there. It's just Leah Lamar, LeahLamarr. My TikTok is Leah Lamar with 5 R's. Don't ask why. My Twitter is also just Leah Lamar. And that is pretty much where you can find me.
Awesome. Leah, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And make sure you give Leah some likes and some plays so that she'll feel better about herself.
You're the best. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it.